Your Prime Minister Netanyahu posted on the weekend, he was talking about the terror attack at the Adass Synagogue in Melbourne, and he said, unfortunately, it's impossible to separate this reprehensible act from the extreme anti-Israeli position of the Labor government in Australia. He said anti-Israel sentiment is anti-Semitism. Sharren, do you agree that the Albanese government has fostered a climate where anti-Semitism can flourish?
Unfortunately, we haven't seen serious measures to enforce the hatred and racism towards Jews in Australia. You see those really maybe anti-Israel, but very much also anti-Jewish protests. When they go and march in the Sydney Opera House and they chant gas the Jews, what kind of message does that send? Was that tolerated? Was that these people were persecuted, arrested, anything legally that was done to them? Or were they free to go and continue their marches of hatred and slogans that really calls for violence? How would you interpret any other way someone that is calling out publicly in demonstrations, gas the Jews? Well, a year later, when that continued on, they would go to a synagogue and would try to murder them, to create a terrorist attack. And so we are beyond words. Words have been said many, many times past the year. This is the time for actions. And I think that this government has to combat the hatred and racism towards the Jewish community. And yes, I completely agree with the Prime Minister. And I think he said it pretty clearly that the anti-Israeli motions that are coming from this current government, unfortunately, you cannot separate them with the rise of hatred towards the Jewish community. And it's very disappointing. I'm hoping
Sharren,
for a future when we can rely on our allies.
Has it got to the point, do you think, now where the Netanyahu government, of which you are now a part, you might not consider Australia under this government an ally?
Well, I can tell you that we feel like we cannot rely on them. And I really pray and hope for better days when we can rely on Australia as our allies. We had an extremely good relationship throughout the years, a lot of mutual cooperations, to the point where Australia was one of the first countries to actually vote in favor of creating, the founding of the Jewish state here in Israel. So, and it's beyond my own personal disappointment. I think it's very disappointing for the Israeli public and the people who see Australia as one of its greatest allies.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we feel like we cannot rely at this moment on this current government.
Such a disappointing state of affairs, no question. Sharren, I want to get we've only got a minute left now. What's the latest on the hostage negotiations? We are hearing reports that this is underway. Are they accurate?
So we need to be extremely cautious. Even just a couple of months ago, there were 3 proposals, the Qatari, the Egyptians, and the Russian. Israel said yes to all these deals, but unfortunately, Hamas said no. We do notice that Hamas didn't reject it completely, and there's some positive motion and some breakthrough, but I'm being very, very cautious. We are praying that we will be able to bring back our family members as quickly as possible, and I really hope we'll be able to bring some good news in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. All right, Sharren, Haskel, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.